I first met Craig when he was 13 years old, when I was Vice President of the United States, and invited him to Washington, D.C. to describe what he was doing. And I was so inspired. And what he found in his heart is what you have in your hearts. Never, ever doubt for one moment that you can change the world in a positive way. You are already doing so. Those of you who are here have earned the right to be here by thinking globally and thinking locally, and by acting locally and acting globally. I tell you, as I travel the world to talk about the climate crisis, I see much evidence of trouble and destruction, and I look for the sources of hope and positive action to make the world a better place. And when I travel from here, I'm going to tell people all over the world about what young Canadians are doing on We Day and what you're doing to save the world. When I was your age, I lived in the South of the United States, and when the Civil Rights Movement began, and you heard some of the stories from Jesse Jackson, who was a great hero of that movement, but young people in high school and even younger asked their parents to explain, please, why it is not wrong to discriminate on the basis of skin color. And when their parents couldn't answer, they had to face the obvious, if sometimes inconvenient, truth that it was time for change to eliminate that kind of discrimination. When I was 13 years old, I remember when a president of my country, John F. Kennedy, challenged the nation to put a person on the moon and bring him back safely within 10 years. And I remember how many people thought that that was impossible and that it was unwise to issue that challenge. But 8 years and 2 months later, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin set foot on the surface of the moon. And on the day and at the moment when that happened, there was a great cheer that went up in Houston, Texas, at Mission Control for NASA. And the systems engineers at work at Mission Control that day, their average age was 26, which means that when they heard that challenge, their average age was 18. You have now heard a challenge to change the world for the better. You can educate yourselves. You can continue to gain the knowledge and skill that is necessary for you to become effective in making this world a better place. You can continue to nurture the optimism and idealism in your hearts. Never give up. Keep working. We can prevail. The climate crisis is the most serious challenge that we have ever faced. But remember that the word crisis is written in the Chinese language and the Japanese language with two symbols together. The first symbol by itself means danger. The second one means opportunity. Every crisis requires us to face down the fear and to face the danger and overcome the fear and then reach out for the hope and seize the opportunity. Change is taking place in this world, but we are still putting 90 million tons of global warming pollution into the Earth's atmosphere every single day. On the eve of World War II, Winston Churchill in the United Kingdom said, "We are entering a period of consequences." And so too are we now entering a period of consequences with global warming. This past summer in Pakistan, the devastating floods left 20 million people homeless, most of them still homeless. And that event was exactly in keeping with what the climate scientists have long predicted would start happening with greater frequency. In Russia, the temperatures soared to an all-time record, and the fires and the drought represented a tragedy that hasn't happened there in 1,000 years. We have seen 19 countries this year around the world set all-time high temperature records. We are seeing the consequences beginning to unfold. But something else is happening as well. All over the world and all over Canada, young people are taking the initiative to fight for and work for a new way to recycle and to use renewable energy, and to advocate for smart grids and fast trains and solar energy and wind power and geothermal power and more efficient buildings. We can prevail. We can prevail and we will prevail. But always remember that where it starts is in your heart. You have to have the same kind of dedication, vision, and inspirational leadership that led Craig Kielburger to begin the work that has led to this entire movement. There's an old African proverb that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. We in this world now have to go far quickly, which means we have to get our act together. And just as young people in the civil rights movement so long ago asked their parents and elders to explain why the current practices were not wrong, so now all of us have to ask respectfully but insistently, why isn't it wrong to destroy the climate balance? Why isn't it wrong to put all of this global warming pollution? Why isn't it wrong to ignore what the scientists have been warning about with increasing alarm? And remember, the solutions are there. More sunlight falls on the surface of this planet in 1 hour than is necessary to provide all the energy the world needs for an entire year. Wind power is growing in magnitude and volume all over the world. Renewable energy is the source of the energy for the future. Not too many years from now, when you have reached my age, your generation will look back at this point in time, and depending upon the circumstances in the world, you will ask one of two questions. If the changes were not made, and they will be, but if they were not made, and if the North Polar ice cap has disappeared, if Greenland and Antarctica are melting, if the seas are rising, if there are climate refugees, if there are stronger storms coming off the oceans and tropical diseases moving to higher latitudes, if there are deeper droughts around the world, as there have been in these last few years, if they grow worse, then your generation would be completely justified in looking back at this time and place and asking of those in positions of leadership today, why didn't you act? What were you thinking? Why was it okay to ignore the scientific warnings? But there is a second question. If we do the right thing, and you live in a world where there are tens of millions of new jobs being created in these exciting new efforts to make our world more efficient and more humane, to fight against extreme poverty and disease, and to lift standards of living while we are renewing our energy sources, fighting for sustainable agriculture and sustainable forestry, and planting billions of trees. If there is a world in renewal, and you will find hope in your hearts, and your own children will live lives that you are confident will be better even than the ones you are now embarking on, I want you to look back at this day and time and ask, how did we find the moral courage to rise up and solve a crisis that so many said was impossible to solve? How did we stare this danger down? How did we reach out for hope and make it real? And my friends, part of the answer to that question, to how we did it, is embodied in the oft-quoted phrase from Mahatma Gandhi, you must become the change that you wish to see in the world. Part of the answer to how our world will turn the corner and how we will reach out and march in the right direction, part of the answer will be that in Vancouver, Canada, in the fall of 2010, 18,000 of Canada's best and brightest young people from all over this nation came together and gained inspiration from one another and said, yes, we will do it. Yes, we are going to do it. We have everything we need. It is up to you. Political will is a renewable resource. Thank you.